Huge fan. Also huge fan. Now this is what I've been longing for. Hey, what's poppin' fellas, it's Mav, and today I am here to talk about a game that is criminally underrated, Soul Hackers 2. Now, I can already hear people typing in the comments,
"But Mav, this game is a solid 7 out of 10. It's so mediocre and it doesn't know whether it's a Persona game or an SMT game."
but I hope I can either convince you or at least make you think twice about this game. And to those that have never played it, I hope that this video will offer good reasons to give this game a try. This video will be spoiler free of story, but it will show off the various areas in the game. Without further ado, let's get right into this, guys. Starting this review off with the gameplay/combat, Soul Hackers 2 follows the typical turn-based combat system that Mega 10 games are well known for, surprise surprise, but with a unique twist called Sabbaths. Sabbaths are basically this game's version of Persona's All-Out Attack, but it's more like Demon Co-op from Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey if anything. When you strike an opponent's weakness or land a critical hit, your demon is added to what's called a stack, and it will be shown on screen. Once you finish your turn, the Sabbath will activate and Ringo, the main protagonist, will unleash a powerful attack on all enemies. The higher your stack number is, the more damage it will deal. There is no baton pass or press turn, and as you level up your demons, they'll unlock tandem skills that activate during Sabbaths that can grant additional effects such as healing the party, using status ailments on enemies, getting items, and dealing extra damage. Another neat mechanic that this game brought back are the commander skills from Strange Journey. Commander skills are special abilities that Ringo can use mid-battle, and they do not take up any turns, which is an incredible feature. You're not locked behind personas or only swapping one demon per turn. Commander skills come in all shapes and sizes, such as swapping demons during battle for one or all party members, focusing your Sabbath on a single enemy to deal more damage, and even granting any party member a second attack during a single turn. This does have a drawback though, as you'll need to wait a certain number of turns before using the same commander skill again. There are many more commander skills, and this mechanic really is a wonderful addition that makes combat flow nicely. Whenever I'm fighting a boss unprepared, there are moments when using commander skills can give me just the edge I need to come out on top. In Soul Hackers 2, you have 4 party members: Ringo, Arrow, Milady, and Saizo. They are the 4 party members that will stay with you throughout the entire game. Every party member can use and swap to any demon in the game both during and outside of combat, giving you a ton of options. For those that don't know, whatever demon is equipped will determine the character's skills, strengths, and weaknesses, which is great because whenever I'm faced with a challenge, I'm always pushed to try and think outside the box. And while mainline SMT and Persona make you do the same in their own unique ways, they don't grant you the same freedom to this extent. Also, you can enhance your party members' stats and combat capabilities in any way you see fit that the game offers through the Compsmith. Comps are basically the weapons that the party uses throughout the whole game. Your characters will specialize in the same weapon, but through the Compsmith you can enhance their power, have them specialize in certain elements of magic, and much more. Another way to learn new skills is through the Soul Matrix, which I will describe later on in the video. There are also accessories you can equip to your character called Mystiques. Mystiques can improve your existing skill affinities, such as decreasing the MP cost to use their specialized elements, or increase said elements' damage output. You can get Mystiques by leveling up your demons and having them give one to you, and you can also acquire them from this vendor found right here in Ropo Realm by selling your old unwanted Mystiques for Mystiquartz. Mystiquartz is basically this vendor's currency. With Mystiquartz you can buy Mystiques, and the vendor will unlock more throughout the game. But overall, taking all of these things into account, the combat system of this game is honestly fantastic. And dare I say my favorite in any RPG I played, despite the lack of baton pass or press turn. It just plays as smooth as butter. At first I wasn't too fond, but I really began to like it more and more as I kept playing. Fights are fast paced, using stat buffs and striking enemy weaknesses are absolutely pivotal to winning, but aren't the only driving factors. And you can make the game harder by changing difficulties on the fly. I never felt like I got a game over for any cheap reason, and it also felt good and rewarding to defeat the more powerful bosses. The turn-based combat in this game is everything I could want from an Atlus title, as I've always wanted a middle ground between Persona and mainline SMT. I was especially happy seeing mechanics from Strange Journey here, as it mixes incredibly well with the style of gameplay. The next thing you should all know is how to get more demons. Once you progress far enough into the game, you'll unlock a new new section of the game's hub called Ropo Realm. As I mentioned earlier, you can get Mystiques and Mysticorts here, but you can also access the Cirque du Gomadin. This will be where you can fuse your demons into more powerful ones, which sounds typical, but this game did something I truly love. Not only does this game provide a wide variety of special fusions, but it also provides a little something amazing called Search Fusion. Search Fusions allow you to search for practically any demon and any way of fusing it in the game with what is currently in your party or what's in your compendium. For those that don't know, the compendium is a list of demons you've already gotten in the game. When you fuse out a demon, it simply is accessible through the compendium and you can buy it back if you want. Search Fusion also includes the price to buy back those demons. But what's also wonderful about Search Fusion is that you can modify the search to what you're specifically looking for. Let's say I wanted a new high-level demon with wind/healing skills for Saizo. Just modify the search bar and bam! Just like that, you got it. My Persona and SMT loving friends, no more will you have to pull out your phone and look up a fusion calculator to finish your compendium or make a specific build. This game has you covered. Anyway, with the combat out of the way, let's talk about the
dungeons.
The dungeons are definitely one of the more flawed aspects of Soul Hackers 2, and it's probably a stranger to nobody. It's one of the parts of the game that truly showed that it's a budget title. Most of the dungeons in this game are bland as f*** and have nothing unique about them. Now, there are a couple of exceptions, but only 2 late game dungeons truly shine in my book. But even then, they're still kind of empty and lacking with any detail or furniture or anything. They're just kind of blank hallways that you walk through. What makes it even worse is that there are 3 different subway dungeons and 2 shipping district dungeons, which both look the same and are plain as a piece of white bread. For many people that just played Persona 5 or SMT 5, this may be a deal breaker, but bear with me here. This game was announced 6 months before its release. This was at the same time the Persona 3, 4, and 5 ports were being worked on. But if that wasn't enough, SMT 5 was also being worked on. So clearly Atlus had multiple teams working on these projects, and most fans understandably went for the other franchises because the advertising for this game was severely lacking in Western countries. Typical Atlus, right? Anyway, there are a couple of unique things about dungeon calling that I actually enjoy about this game. For starters, when you enter a dungeon, Ringo will send her demons to scout around, and as you're running around, you'll find them standing around in various locations. They can give you items, HP, MP, quest items, and also demons to negotiate with. Demon negotiation is watered down to simple yes or no questions, which is kind of lame, but I personally don't mind this too much, but to those that desire extra challenge, I understand. There are also side dungeons for each of your party members called Soul Matrix sectors. You unlock the Soul Matrix extremely early on in the game, and it can be accessed from the Axis. As you go to the bar and hang out with your party members, they'll level up what is called a soul level. Once the soul level is high enough, you're granted access to higher floors, and the further you go through these dungeons, the more skills your party members will learn. When you finish the game and start on New Game Plus, you'll be able to reach new floors. These dungeons more or less look the same and are extremely repetitive despite certain floors having different gimmicks. But you actually get cutscenes and learn more about each character's backstory, which I thought was pretty neat. Anyway, I actually don't mind the Soul Matrix too much, as it can also serve as a spot to level grind and battle mini-bosses. But the great thing is that when you're bored, you can simply just exit the dungeon and hang out with your party members. Another thing I enjoy is that you're actually not forced into encounters at random. Rather, demons will spawn in as you're running around, and you can simply whack them with your big-ass sword outside of combat and avoid them entirely if you're trying to speedrun a dungeon. Or go into the encounter and land the first hit on them. I really enjoy this, as constant forced encounters can be really draining. So it's a bit more like Persona in that regard. I must say, if the devs had more time and money to make these dungeons look more dynamic like the one at the end of the game, it would have made the experience that much better, but it isn't a deal breaker for me. If you want to change up the gameplay a little bit more, you can also do some side quests or Ion directives, which usually consist of just collecting things, defeating enemies, or hanging out with your party members. Soul Hackers 2 has that RPG/visual novel charm that the Persona series has, but not to the point where it would be considered a copy of it. A jack of all trades and a master of none. I truly think that's the best way to look at this game. It's also not a very hard game. It isn't a bad choice to start out with this as far as Megaten goes. What's also great is that you're free to progress whatever, whenever. You don't need to manage your time, and you also don't need to worry about a bland story. Speaking of, up next is the story, which I'll quickly summarize for those who want an idea. It's the middle of the 21st century, technological advances have plateaued and society is stagnant. Humans and demons live side by side, and humans with special powers can form contracts with demons and summon them. This game is part of the Devil Summoner series. In the world of Soul Hackers 2, there are two factions of Devil Summoners, Yatagarasu and the Phantom Society, which clash and disagree about what the destiny of humanity should be. Coexisting with these factions is a sea of information that vastly transcends the intelligence of humans and is a sentient life form called Ion, which is both technological and spiritual. Ion does not interfere with conflicts between humanity and has stayed quiet for countless years. But one day it foresaw the end of the world and created the two main characters, Ringo, who is the protagonist, and Fig. Ringo and Fig are the agents of Ion, and their purpose is to prevent the destruction of Earth in any way necessary. During this journey they meet Arrow, a member of Yatagarasu, Milady, a member of the Phantom Society, and last but not least, Saizo, a freelance devil summoner. The story itself is great and pretty straightforward, but what I love most are the characters themselves and how they interact with each other. They have a lot of chemistry, and it's interesting to see characters with different beliefs all working together, working past their differences despite clashing from time to time. For once we have an Atlus protagonist that isn't silent, who has a really amazing personality, I must say.
Spitting gold bars, and your talk is cheaper. I'm the RS, and I don't fear no Reaper.
I'm no Reaper, but I can send you to hell. So face the music, RS, and take the L.
How many people could this feed?
I don't know. I just thought it'd be cool to dramatically reveal a load of pizza.
Now look, there's nothing wrong with having a self-insert protagonist, but this is a nice change of pace. Seeing these four characters at a bar drinking beers while talking about their relationships, friendships, and past lives is a nice breath of fresh air. In many Megaten games, most of the characters are just teenagers or high schoolers, and it's nice to see adults for once. These characters also don't center themselves around the protagonist, and they feel truly genuine. Sure, the story is pretty straightforward and typical, but that's what makes it easy to follow. A lot of the themes and beliefs of these characters are also understandable and relatable. It's damn near poetic in a way. I'd like to believe that the three party members in this game represent the different SMT alignments. Saizo for neutral, Milady for chaos, and Arrow for law. At first they're all reluctant to work together, but all learn to understand one another and become relatively close by endgame. Overall, these are some of my favorite characters in Megaten period, especially Ringo and Saizo. And if all of this information ever goes over your head, there's a help section in the menu you can access to read up on anything you may have missed, which isn't needed but is nice to have. One thing I also want to mention is that the soundtrack was created by Monaka, who is well known for the Nier series. I must say there are some real unique bangers in this game. Overall, the music fits the mood that this game sets, despite being completely different from other Atlus titles. Now, I wouldn't say this game has a soundtrack that's up to par with Persona 5 or Nocturne, no. But it's great in its own right, and it shouldn't be slept on. I also love the art style of the characters and environment, and it's clear that this game took inspiration from Persona. Before I get into the DLC this game offers, I want to say that I played this game for the first time on Christmas. So if you're wondering why I haven't covered any bugs in the game that were present at launch, there's your answer. And from what I've seen from other content creators, this game had a rocky start. Modern gaming always has to have a couple of updates to iron out some issues. Also, if you want to have a smoother gameplay experience, there are a couple of settings you should mess with. When you're first dropped into the Eastern Shipping District, go into the menu and click on System, then Configuration. Set the display and graphics to your liking depending on if you're playing this on PC, and turn off VSync because for some wacky reason it messes with how Ringo moves outside of combat. After doing that, go to Gameplay. Here you can mess with the game's camera by adjusting the distance as well as where Ringo is placed so it isn't awkwardly zoomed in on her. I wish I knew this because I went through a good portion of the game using the default settings. So now that you're ready to play, allow me to explain the worst part of this game. The DLC! And there are many different DLCs, so bear with me here. Starting this off, we have the one and only free DLC this game has to offer, which is the Useful Items Set and Extra Difficulty. It offers a variety of healing items and the very hard difficulty. I'm not sure why very hard isn't just in the game already, but I'm perfectly fine with this, especially if you're using these items on a first playthrough and want to make life a little easier. But if you're playing on very hard, then items in combat will be disabled anyway. Still, no complaints here. Up next is the bonus demon pack for $13 that grants you 8 demons. Yep, that's it. And they can be obtained for free in your compendium at the beginning of the game, which is utter BS because they're extremely powerful. Paying a fraction of the full game's cost just for a few demons is absolutely dreadful and scummy, Atlus.
Come on!
What's even crazier is that these DLCs were arranged to come out when the game was released.
But wait, there's more.
Up next is the worst one of all, the item booster pack. Yep, you heard me right. By paying $5, you can get millions of yen and instant level ups for your demons and party members right away, making any difficulty in this game null and void. Now listen, if you get this DLC, I can understand if you want to use it in New Game Plus or maybe leveling up your party at the end of the game, but this is just pay to win, people. We're not talking about Activision or 2K, this is f***ing Atlus, bro. Flipping Atlus. How dare you, Atlus? How dare you? Please, for the love of God, avoid this DLC at all costs until New Game Plus, at the very least. But just wait, there's 2 more. Up next is the Costume and BGM pack, which includes outfits from Soul Hackers 1, the Raito series, Persona 4, Persona 5, along with a couple of others, accompanied by tracks from their respective games. I was hoping they'd include outfits from Persona 3 and Strange Journey as well, but it's not the end of the world. One last thing is that obtaining the Phantom Thief outfits are basically impossible if you didn't pre-order the game. Bummer, I know, but still, another $13 for this? Atlus knew what they were doing. They wanted that extra buck, my man. And last but not least, we have the hyped up Lost Numbers side quest DLC for $10. There's a new dungeon as well, but it's basically the same floor 13 times, and it's also accompanied by a new character named Nana.
You think this table is edible?
I enjoyed the short story it had, but I just don't understand why it couldn't be part of the main game. In all honesty, if you want the DLC, go for it, but I don't think it should be worth $10. I think it should just be part of the main game. I got the full package with the game when it was on sale, but $40 is a ton of money. I mean, that much money for this level of content is a joke. Spending 40 of your gosh darn doubloons on this DLC is like buying a Nissan Altima instead of a Honda Civic. Do I even need to tell you guys what great games you can get with $40? Heck, use that money to get the Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Portable bundle, which is the same price of the DLC, which provide countless hours of story and gameplay. Point is, you don't need this DLC to enjoy the game. The game is amazing without it. Anyway guys, that just about wraps things up for today. Honestly, if they took away the stat boosts and just gave players the DLC for free with better dungeon design, I'd truly give this game a 10 out of 10. But despite this game's glaring flaws, I think its good qualities shine through. And honestly, I'd love to see another Soul Hackers game. I know sales fell short though, so here's to hoping. So I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. The links for what mods I used for the game will be in the description. I only used a leggings mod for Ringo and a camera mod for outside of dungeons. Credit to the creators of those mods. If you're interested in playing this game, I highly recommend it. But definitely check out Persona and other Atlus titles. I definitely got attached to these characters in the story. With that out of the way, please comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Leave any recommendations for future content in the comment section. And please check out my Twitch and social media. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and I will catch you all next time. Peace out, fellas.